Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I have a video where I'm going to be talking about a subject that really matters to me, and that is travelling on public transport as a disabled person. If you are new to this channel and you would like to support me, you can do so by simply clicking the subscribe button and also by clicking the notification bell down below to receive updates when I post new videos. Now, I am making this video today because a campaign has recently come to light that I thought that you guys might want to be aware of. The campaign is called #It'sEveryone'sJourney. The campaign was created by the Department of Transport. The campaign is targeted around highlighting the problems that disabled people face on public transport. Although it's not anything to do with accessibility, this campaign is focused on people's attitudes towards disabled people on public transport and how it affects disabled people when using public transport. Disabled people are a third less likely to use public transport than people who are non-disabled. And a lot of the time, the reason it being is because of people's attitudes towards them on public transport. The campaign has been created to help raise awareness of this and to help start the conversation on how people who are non-disabled can aid disabled people when travelling and commuting on public transport. Because in fact, people with disabilities can face a lot of issues on public transport, and sadly, sometimes these issues aren't just around things like trying to access a service. They are to do with the people that you are often sharing public transport with and their attitudes towards you. Now, a lot of the time this can be an unconscious thing, so it can be something they're not even aware of that they're doing, and sometimes it can be more of a conscious thing. The overwhelming consensus is that people with non-disabilities need to really be a bit more considerate to people with disabilities who may be sharing public transport with them when they commute. I was contacted by the campaign It's Everyone's Journey and asked if I would like to create some content on this subject, and I of course said yes. So today I wanted to talk about some of my issues that I face when using public transport and how it affects me. If you are new to this channel and you don't know my disabilities, I have septo-optic dysplasia, video up in a card above my head right now if you'd like to go and watch that, which means that I have optic nerve hyperplasia, video above my head right now, and I have an illness which affects things like my blood sugar, my immunity, my hormone levels, and basically it means that I tend to get unwell quite easily and I can get sick at the drop of a hat. Now, one of the first problems I encounter using public transport usually happens when I get on a train and I'm trying to find a seat. Now, often if I get on in the morning when you're facing that time where it's the morning commute and it's rush hour, there aren't any seats available, and often I'm not offered one, which, you know, it is what it is. So I often have to try and find somewhere to stand, and a lot of the time these trains are packed and there's nowhere to stand. So what do I have to do? Well, I have to stand right near the door, and I'm in a really precarious space where I'm worried about my guide dog getting her tail caught in the doors or people stepping on her, and it's very uncomfortable for me. And then the second issue is when people want to get off the train. So because I'm usually stood in a position where I'm near the doors and I'm blocking people's way, I often get commuters who get very annoyed with me that I'm in their way, and they're having to try and negotiate around me and get out of the doors before they close. And people just get very huffy with me and they get very annoyed, and there's nothing I can do about it. There's nowhere I can move. I have to just make do with what is available to me. Now, another issue I have is when I'm trying to negotiate through a train station or I'm trying to transfer through a tube station and it's really busy. So a lot of the time I do ask for assistance, but I tend to ask for assistance because of this reason. And the reason is because people get very agitated with me when I'm taking too long, when I'm walking too slowly, when I'm trying to negotiate and find my way. And obviously you've got to imagine, for me, train stations are usually very big, and I often find myself feeling quite disorientated if it's very busy. So I have to try and, you know, familiarise myself, try and find out where I am. And it's very busy, so you're hearing all this kind of like noise interference, and it can be really disorientating. And then to add on to that, you get people who get really annoyed when you're in their way and they can't move around you and you're taking too long. And if it's a narrow space and you're, you know, walking a bit too slowly for their liking and they've got a train to catch or they're trying to get on a tube, they can get a little bit flustered with you. And, you know, sometimes you get people who are on their phone, they're not looking where they're going, they walk straight into you. I've had literally people walk into my guide dog and kick her over. I've had people, you know, walk into me when I'm using my cane and then they get annoyed when they almost trip over it. And that is a really stressful thing as well, because obviously you're having to think about what other people are doing, and the fact is I can't control what other people see or what other people are doing, and a lot of the time their attitude really kind of has an impact on me, because the fact that they didn't see me or the fact that I'm not walking fast enough means that, you know, it's affecting their journey. And I feel a lot of the time I can really kind of bear the brunt of their frustration and their annoyance. And then other things, like when I'm trying to get through a ticket barrier and I'm trying to tap my card to be able to be let through the ticket barrier, or if I have to go to the larger ones where it's a disabled barrier, if I'm not moving quickly enough for someone's liking and I'm in their way, they can get annoyed with me. I once had verbal abuse from someone when I was trying to get through a ticket barrier, and because I wasn't moving quickly enough, and because I was trying to see where to put my card, and because I was taking a little bit too much time and this person wanted to get on the train, they decided that a good response would be to shout at me and to tell me to hurry up. And another examples would be around priority seats. And you know me, I am the last person who would ever judge someone based on what they look like who is sat in a priority seat, because you just don't know. You don't know who is disabled and who is not based on what they look like, and I would never judge someone who is sat in a priority seat based on what they look like, because I get it myself. But I think we can all safely say that there are people who do sit in priority seats who don't need to sit in them, and who do exploit them, and then when they see someone like me or someone who has a disability get on a train or a bus or a tube, they don't move and they don't offer their seats, and they don't have a willingness to offer. And it's a lot of the time it's because they're kind of in their own little bubble. They've got their headphones in, they're looking at their phone, they're not paying attention to what's going on around them, and that means people like me, you know, have to, you know, have that problem of trying to work out, you know, who could I ask without possibly offending someone, because I don't want to go up to someone and say, can you give me your seat please? And then you've got a disability but they don't want to say it, and that would then make them feel really uncomfortable and awkward. So the thing is, I think it should come down to people. You know, if a person has the ability to be able to offer a seat, then they should offer it, because if they're sat in a priority seats are meant for people who've got mobility issues like disabilities, who are elderly, who've got children, and that's what those seats are for. And it's not for people like me to have to physically go and ask someone and then ask the wrong person, essentially. The other issue I have is when people abuse these priority seats and use them to store all their luggage and their belongings in. I remember one time when I got on a train, I had assistance on the train, and there was this couple who had these really massive suitcases, and they were sat in the wheelchair spaces, the priority seats, and he said, can you please move? And this lady needs to sit there, they're priority seats. And they had like an argument and said, no, but we've got our luggage, we can't move. And in the end, another older lady had to offer me her priority seat and move to another carriage so that I could sit down. And then to top it all off, one person from this couple said, oh no, we can't sit next to this person because I'm allergic to dogs. Looking at me, expecting me to move, when it was quite abundantly clear that they were just sat there because they wanted to have space to put their massive suitcases. There's a whole plethora of problems that I have on public transport. That's just a few to give you a glimpse into my daily life travelling on public transport. But it can be really problematic because it really makes me apprehensive to use public transport, because I have to think about all these things that I have to contend with on a daily basis. And a lot of the time it either makes me inclined not to use public transport, or to instead have to pay extra money for a taxi or a cab to be able to get somewhere, which costs a lot of money, especially in London where there's a lot of traffic and congestion. I have actually had cognitive behavioural therapy to deal with my anxiety issues that I have, and one of the anxiety issues that I have is using public transport and having to deal with people's attitudes towards me as a disabled person. Now, I don't want to paint a picture that everybody who uses public transport who is a disabled person is inconsiderate and who doesn't have a regard for disabled people, because that is completely not the case. I get really, really genuinely lovely people who offer me seats, who offer me assistance, who just generally talk to me about my guide dog, and who are very considerate and very, very caring and compassionate. But there are those examples that can really stick out and can really, really have a very negative effect on your experience using public transport as a whole. So what are the ways that you can help as a non-disabled person travelling on public transport? Well, the first one and the big one for me is to be observant, look around, and to really gauge who is using public transport, and to see if anybody does need assistance or if anybody does need the seat that you might be sat in. The other one is to take time and slow down. Often Some of the big problems I have are from people who are in a real rush, they're in a hurry, they're running late, they want to get home, they are really aggravated, and they are not paying attention to what's around them, and they are not paying attention to the people that they are sharing public transport with. And I get it. Public transport is not a nice place to have to spend a great deal of your life on. It's boring, it's annoying, it's monotonous, it's uncomfortable. We all want to get home. I get it. And you just can take your time and slow down, and don't take your frustrations out on other people who potentially may also have difficulties using public transport, and it may be just as stressful for them, and your attitude may make it even worse. The last one for me personally would be to please not make assumptions about a disabled person who is using public transport. For example, in my case, if you get on public transport and you see someone who is visually impaired who is using a phone, please don't let the first response be to make a sarcastic comment about them using a phone when they've got a visual impairment. But there are ways that people who have visual impairments can use phones. More about that in a video above my head right now. So that would be my final one. So thank you so much for watching this video today. I really hope it's given you an insight into what it can be like travelling on public transport when you have a disability. If you want to get involved in this campaign, please feel free to do so. The hashtag is It's Everyone's Journey, so be sure whatever you do, whatever content you create or whatever you share on social media, that you share under that hashtag. Let me know down in the comments what your experiences are like using public transport as a disabled person, and how you find using public transport and any issues that you have. And also be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I will see you all in my next one. Bye guys!